It's time again for the Science Bowl.
Zoo Parade for 5. What big teeth the hippo has are actually a pair of these. Science Potpourri for 10. Would a snake most likely eat every day? Every week, Dateline Science for 10. Why are some elephants wearing necklaces these days? Green things for 15.
And now, here's your host, Mr. Z himself, Dave Zarin.
Thank you and welcome to the Science Bowl, the science quiz program here in the Prince George's County Public Schools. We test scientific literacy with elementary and middle school students. We invite you to test your own and play along with us. Let's meet today's elementary teams. First, from Bond Mill Elementary, would you please say hello to Martin McCall, Delaney McGinnis, and Timothy Stroud. And from Mount Rainier Elementary, here they are, Emmanuel Garcia, Frank Maldonado Lopez, and Zana Wallace. And now here are the categories of questions we use on the Science Bowl.
Okay, Mr. Z, here's today's categories. Green Things, questions about plants and all things green and growing. Zoo Parade, a Noah's Ark of questions about animals. Body Systems, we'll see how much you know about yourself, about things like breathing and growing and digesting your food. Let's Get Physical, questions that test your knowledge of physics and chemistry, earth science and space science. Then there's Science Potpourri. Here's a grab bag of science questions, everything from air pollution to the kitchen sink. And finally, Dateline Science. We'll ask you about science history and science in the news.
And here on the Science Bowl, our game board reflects question difficulty with the easier questions on the left worth 5 and 10 points. The tougher ones, 15, 20, ultimately 25, the toughest of them all. We started teams out at 50 points, no penalties for incorrect answers. And at the end of the 2 rounds today, one of these 2 good-looking teams will come back to play Hillcrest Heights for the chance to move on in our competition. Let's go over and make sure everything works properly before we start. Delaney, would you try the red team's buzzer? Looks and sounds A-OK. And Frank, how about the green teams? All right, looking good as well. Good luck to you, to Zana, and to Emmanuel, and Timothy, and Delaney, and Mark. We're going to have a good game, aren't we? We're going to have some fun today. You already won because you're representing your school. So we go alphabetically B before M. So Bond Mill and Delaney, let's give it a go.
Zoo Parade for 15.
Zoo Parade for 15 to start out our game. Teams, the strongest spider silk is spun by this particular spider that is known as a femme fatale. Bond Mill.
Tarantula?
What you got?
Tarantula?
Nope. Good try. The strongest spider silk is spun by this spider that is known as a femme fatale. The black widow spider. Go again, red. Good. You choose.
Green Things for 10.
Green things for 10 points. Teams, almost half of the things you buy in a store that are processed foods contain oil from this branchless tree that is associated with beaches, and they sway in the Caribbean.
Palm.
Palm oil is in so much food that we buy. Go red. And just wait till we acknowledge you before you give your answer. I know you're excited and you want to blurt it out. So go ahead, Delaney. Your choice. You choose.
Zoo Parade for 20.
Zoo Parade for 20 points. Teams, naked mole rats are mammals. They're kind of strange-looking creatures, but they're like insects. There's a queen. She's the only one that reproduces. But all the other females in the colony still take care of the babies. What is that M-initialed adjective that describes behavior that is taking care like motherly things that are done? That's maternal behavior. Maternal as opposed to paternal. Go red.
Let's Get Physical for 10.
Get physical for 10 points. Teams, if a doctor sends you for some tests, maybe orders an NMR or an MRI, in both cases the M stands for what property?
Magnetic.
Bond Mill.
Magnetic.
Magnetism,
Wait,
that's
tell
right.
me.
All right, good, go.
If you remember.
Go ahead.
Green Things.
That's your choice, Delaney. You don't have to consult each time. You choose.
Green Things for 15.
Green things for 15 points. 3-part question. You know, most plants love sun, but there are 3 plants that do better in the shade. These are 3 plants that make caffeinated beverages. Give me the 3 plants that make caffeinated beverages that do better in the shade rather than direct sunlight. All right, Zaina, I saw the light bulb go off over there. Can you give me all 3? Did you consult already with your team?
I think one's cocoa bean.
And Bon Mil, you have 3 in case I have to come to you.
Coffee bean, and then
All right. Go ahead. Who's going to be the answer person here? Go ahead, Zaina.
Cocoa bean, coffee bean, and I think aloe vera.
Elvira?
Yeah.
No, the last one is not correct there. Bon Mil, can you give me the 3 caffeinated beverages that grow on trees that do very well in the shade?
coffee bean, cocoa bean, and tea leaves.
That's it. Tea was the other one. Good comeback. Go Red.
Body systems for 15.
Body systems for 15 points. Teams, this is a multiple choice question. If I asked you where in your body you would find the lumbar area, L-U-M-B-A-R, would you tell me your spine, your leg, or your skull? All right, Frank.
Skull,
Nope. Lumbar region.
spine.
Spine, yeah, the lumbar vertebrae in the back there. The cervical, the lumbar, the sacral, the coccyx. Good. You have to know your skeleton there. Go Red.
Science potpourri for 15.
Potpourri for 15 points. Lollipops. Suckers. Everybody loves them. That kind of candy is different from other kind of candy because the sugar syrup they use to make a lollipop cools very quickly, so no crystals occur inside. That's why they call this kind of candy after this substance that if you drop it, it shatters. What kind of substance shatters, Delaney?
Glass.
Glass. They call it glass candy. Good. Red. Go.
Let's get physical for 15.
Let's get physical for 15 points. This is a visual question. Look at the monitor in the studio, if you would, please. And it's a multiple choice question. This crow stars in a famous Aesop's fable. The crow is trying to get to the water at the bottom of the jug, but it can't reach, so it's smart. It keeps dropping little stones in until it raises the water up. It displaces all of that water. Smart. Is that an example of Archimedes' principle, Aristotle's principle, or Aphrodite's principle? Delaney.
Archimedes.
Archimedes, absolutely right. Great lesson. Remember Archimedes, he jumped in the bathtub and all the water went out. He thought, wow, how did all that happen? All right, the buzzer says we've come to the end of the first round. Our score is Mount Rainier 50, Bon Mil 130. They're off to a fast start. We'll be back with round 2 in just a moment. Don't you go away. And welcome back to part 2 of our Science Bowl game here today. 2 great elementary schools here today, and let's find out a little bit about the players before we ask any more questions here. Let's go over to Bon Mil, and Delaney, tell us about your school. Who's your principal?
Justin Fitzgerald.
Mr. Fitzgerald, he's here today. Great guy. He always supports the Science Bowl team, and yeah, he's you're lucky to have him. Tell me who your coach is.
Miss Lally.
Miss
Lally,
yes, and this is her first time as a coach, and she's I know she's excited to be here. We appreciate all her efforts. And you have a resident principal too as well. Who is she?
Miss Galladay.
Wonderful, and she'll be out in just a few moments as well. Any alternates on your team, Delaney?
Garen Williams.
Wonderful, and Garen will be out in just a few moments' time here. Tell me about Bon Mil. What's great about it? So many things she's thinking about. Give me one.
The really nice teachers.
Really nice teachers. Boy, if you don't have that, there's no reason to go. Even if the lunch is great, if the food is great, if the teachers aren't, forget it. Yeah. Even if it's a brand new building, if the teachers aren't great, it's just a shell. That was a great answer. What do you want to do someday?
I want to act.
You want to act. And you have the bearing and the poise of an actress already because you have worked at the Playhouse up there in Laurel, haven't you? Give me a role that you played.
The Sultan in Aladdin Jr.
Did you really? Did you have to sing as well?
Yes.
Wow. Well, would you like to act professionally someday?
Yes.
Wow. I can see. We'll remember you on Oscar night when we see you go up there and get that Best Actress trophy. Tim, nice to have you here today. Part of a family legacy here because your brother Mike distinguished himself here. His picture's on the poster. If you see the poster from Martin Luther King, tell me, why did you want to be on the show? Because it's a family tradition, or why?
Well, yeah, partially because of that, but I also kind of like learning new things about science, and I also like being on quiz. I like being quizzed on things.
Yeah, well, that's wonderful. And you're a baseball player, aren't you?
Yes.
What positions do you play?
I play third, pitcher, and sometimes outfield.
Wonderful. Professional baseball player someday?
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe not.
Depends.
It's a good dream to have. Nice to have you here today. Martin, tell us the Martin story. The things you do in your spare time, it took 3 lines. Tell me some of the things that you wrote down for me.
I like to go hiking and camping.
Yeah.
I like to play tennis, sometimes matches, but not professionally or semi or anything. I just do matches for fun.
Sounds like a really active, outdoors kind of guy. What would you want to do professionally someday?
I'd want to be an engineer.
Engineer, so you're probably a good math student as well as a good science student. I know Tim wanted to be an engineer as well. Delaney, you doing all right? Okay, if you need some water or something, just let me know, okay? Let's go over to Mount Rainier. Frank, tell us a little bit about your school. Who's your principal?
Miss Till and Mr. Rife.
Okay, and you have a vice or assistant principal here with you today. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and what's his name?
Mr. Rife.
That's right. Okay, and Miss Till is the principal. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and then who's the sponsor of your team?
Miss Wall.
Miss Wall, and she's out there. She'll be out in a few moments here. Tell me a little bit about your school. What's something? I remember Mount Rainier used to have a peace parade. Do you still do that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that is really unique. Could you? Yes.
We have peace days. So when we're all united in one in that day,
Yes.
we get peace points and we have goals. So if you get to this specific number,
Yes.
you get a prize. Once we did eagle bingo, and then there's pajama day, and then if you go to 100, there's a peace parade.
That's great. That's great. Thanks for sharing that. Frank, let me get back to you for a moment here. And could you tell me about yourself, what you might want to do someday?
I would like to play video games for my job, or go into video game tournaments, or play professional soccer for Barcelona.
That sounds great. Sounds like a great plan. And I meant to compliment all of you too on those shirts, which I know you all helped to design. It says on the front, what does it say on the front there?
Team Mount Rainier. It says Team Mount Rainier.
What does it say?
Team Mount Rainier.
Team Mount Rainier. Those look great. And I'm not going to ask you to turn around, but there's a nice atomic symbol on the back there as well. And those are just beautiful. Thanks for wearing those today. Emmanuel, tell us about yourself. Why did you want to be on the Science Bowl?
Because I thought because I was interested in science
Okay.
for a really long time, so I was like, oh, this is somewhere where I can really show that, proving that I should be here.
Yeah. Well, sometimes, and this is not the be-all, end-all. If you win the Science Bowl, it doesn't mean you're Albert Einstein, but if you don't win, it doesn't mean you know nothing about science. This is very rarefied here. You guys, you don't have any points right now, but I know you're going to earn some here. But just remember, you're here because you're great students, no matter what happens here today. What do you want to do someday, Emmanuel?
Either I just play video games professionally, or I play as a soccer player professionally.
Very good. That sounds great too. And Zaina, I know you were telling us before about Peace Day over there, and I know you want to go to college someday, don't you? Yeah, but you're still not quite sure.
I'm
Right?
not sure what I want to be.
Yeah, you got plenty of time to decide that, and you're a good player. Keep it up in the second half here. Let's get back to the game. Last correct answer came from the red team. We're at 130 to 50. Delaney, you doing all right now? Okay, go ahead.
Green things for 20.
Green things for 20 points. All right, teams, the biggest and tallest and largest trees on Earth are not angiosperms. They belong to this G initial group of trees. G initialed. The opposite of angiosperms? Delaney?
Gymnosperms.
Gymnosperms. That's right. Thank you, Martin. Those are the ones that are cone producers. Nicely done. Go red.
Zooparade for 10.
Zooparade for 10 points. You know, groups of birds go by different names. So it's like if you have a group of geese, it's called a gaggle of geese or a brood of chickens. A group of crows is known as a murder of crows. And a group of these birds, called a conspiracy, are friends of Edgar Allan Poe, who wrote a poem about them, Bon Mill.
Ravens.
The ravens, that's it, yes. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Okay, go ahead, Red.
Let's get physical for 20.
Physical for 20 points is a visual question. Very disturbing picture. Look at the monitor in the studio, please. Teams, you might have seen this picture before. This is the Hindenburg. It was a blimp that flew from Germany to the United States in 1937. And you can see it hit that tower and it burst into flames. The reason it burst into flames was because back then, America would not export helium gas. It was rarefied. We were the only source of it. So they filled that blimp not with helium, but with this other gas that is very flammable.
Hydrogen.
What gas was it, Bon Mill?
Hydrogen.
Hydrogen is right. Yes, indeed. Good. And guys, help her out. You can be her spokesperson there. If you want to pick the question, you go ahead because you're all mic'd, okay? Go ahead, Tim. You pick a category.
Science potpourri for 20.
Science potpourri for 20 points. Crocodiles have the strongest bite on earth. Of course, once they close their mouth, you can easily keep it closed. It is measured as 3,000 of these units of force, the unit being the name of the man who discovered gravity. Come on, who discovered gravity? Isaac Newton. Isaac Newton. 3,000 newtons of force is what that bite measures. Okay, go again. Red.
Body systems for 20.
Body systems for 20 points. Teams, there is a great movie, and there's a play right now at the Kennedy Center called Anastasia. A-N-A-S-T-A-S-I-A. I'm not going to ask you to spell Anastasia because I just did. I'm going to ask you to spell the word that is like Anastasia. I'll give you the points if you can spell anesthesia. Anesthesia. That the doctor can give you before you undergo surgery. It puts you to sleep. Who's going to be my speller on the green team? Who's the speller?
Emmanuel.
Who is spelling first?
Emmanuel.
Emmanuel. Are you okay with that?
Okay.
Okay. Say the word nice and loud so I know that you know what I want.
Okay.
Say the word. Anesthesia. Say it for me.
A-N-N-Y.
Okay.
E.
You're heading down the wrong path, young man. I'm not going to put you through that because, that's not quite right. Bon Mill, do we have a speller here who might want to try anesthesia? Delaney, she's having a tough time over there today, guys, but she's a trooper. Say the word for me, honey.
Anesthesia.
Okay.
A-N-E-S-T-E-S-I-A.
Ooh, T-H-E-S-I-A. You left out that one E. Good try. Go again. Red. Go ahead, Tim.
Dateline science for 15.
Dateline science for 15 points. Teams, back in 1905, there was a famous scientist who had his miraculous year. It was that year he figured out that space and time and mass and energy were the fundamentals of physics. Probably the most famous scientist of all time. Who was he? Bon Mill.
Albert Einstein.
Albert Einstein. And Zena, you were, I could hear you over here. Frank, you got to respond. You know, you got a good trigger finger. If your teammate has an idea, push the buzzer. Okay, go ahead, Tim.
Zooparade for 25.
Zooparade for 25, big one in that category. Teams, we all know that hawks and eagles and falcons are known as birds of prey. They're raptors. They're known as birds of prey because of what? Two specific body parts. Two specific body parts that make them birds of prey. Be specific.
Their bees, their beaks, and claws.
Okay, need to be a little more specific.
Their
What about them?
Um,
What about them, Zena?
both of them have sharp talons that are easy to rip through skin and are easy to eat.
That's right. Yes, the beak has to be sharp and the talons have to be sharp. Good. Okay, go green. All right, Frank, you pick.
Green things for 5.
Green things for 5 points. Teams, there have been a lot of horror movies. Halloween, Scream, but probably the original that scared everybody to death starred Freddy Krueger with the big fingernails. Bon Mill.
Nightmare on Elm Street.
Elm Street, that's right, that's the green thing. Good, go.
Green things for 25. Green things for 25.
Green things for 25 points. Tough question. Teams, if you know the anatomy of a flower, the female part of the flower is known as the pistil, P-I-S-T-I-L. But the S initial part at the top of the pistil is where the pollen grains actually stick. What is the name of that S initial part that actually receives the pollen? It's called the, go ahead.
Stamen.
Good try, not stamen. Good. Come on, Rainier, get yourself 25 points. Who knows the flower over there? What do you know? It's called the stigma, S-T-I-G-M-A. Try again, Red. Go ahead.
Dateline science for 20.
Dateline science for 20 points. I like this question. The man who invented the first artificial heart, his name was Earl Bacon, got the idea by watching the movie version of this horrific book written by Mary Shelley. The famous book she wrote.
Grey's Anatomy.
Not Grey's Anatomy, good try. The movie version of this famous book written by Mary Shelley inspired this man to invent the first artificial heart. What do you think he might have seen?
Heart surgery.
Frankenstein. Frankenstein. Try again, Red.
Body systems for 10.
Body systems for 10 points. All right, teams. This is interesting, too. Leonardo da Vinci, he was a great artist. He painted the Mona Lisa. Well, it turns out maybe he was helped because he suffered from strabismus, which meant that these body parts were crossed. He had crossed what, Delaney?
Ribs.
Not ribs. He had crossed what?
Bones.
Eyes. He had crossed eyes. That let him see in more dimension, more three-dimensionally than other people. Crossed eyes. Okay, try again, Red. Not too many questions left. Where next?
Science potpourri for 10.
Potpourri for 10 points. Among the many things you should not flush down the toilet are these plastic polymer things that people put right on their eyes. Go on, Mill.
Contact lenses.
Contact lenses. That's it. Good. Red, go.
Science potpourri for 5.
Science potpourri for 5 points. All right, teams. All members of the class Porifera are like this character. Yellow, absorbent, and porous is he. Bon Mill.
SpongeBob SquarePants.
SpongeBob SquarePants. That's it. Go, Red.
Let's get physical for 25.
Physical for 25 points. Teams, the semi-permanent attachments that join atoms together to form molecules, like when hydrogen and oxygen come together to form water, those linkages are known as these. They're called bonds. Bonds. Go again, Red. Go ahead.
Body systems for 25.
Body systems for 25 points. This is a baseball question. Tim, you'll identify with this. There was a newspaper in Oregon that wrote an article about a pitcher, Pat Venditte, D-I-T-T-E, and they said he was an amphibious pitcher. Huh? An amphibious pitcher would mean he could pitch on land and underwater. What they meant to say was he was an ambidextrous pitcher, meaning that he did this. Von Mill.
He could throw both hands.
He threw both hands. You got it, Delaney. He could throw right-handed. He could throw left-handed. First pitcher in 20 years to be able to do that. Nice answer, young lady. Go.
Dateline for 10.
Dateline for 10 points. In the country of Indonesia recently, they suffered a double whammy. What two catastrophic events hit them, one that caused the other? Red team.
The earthquake caused a tsunami.
That's exactly right. The earthquake generated that huge wave and destroyed so many villages and towns. It wasn't indeed a catastrophe. That buzzer says our game is over. We'll be back with a wrap-up in just a moment. Don't you go away. Welcome back to Science Bowl. We hope you enjoyed this game at home, and Mount Rainier would have enjoyed it a little more. They tried their best today, and the score, our finale is Mount Rainier 75, Bond Mill 250. Congratulations to Martin and Delaney and Timothy. Tim, thank you for taking over when Delaney was having a tough time there. She is a terrific contestant. And Garen, would you wave your hand to everybody? He was the alternate on the team there. Mr. Fitzgerald, the one and only, the principal at the school. Miss Galladay, who is the resident principal, and first time ever, what a nice debut she has. Miss Lally, the coach of the Bond Mill team. Let's give them a hand. A terrific game. Terrific game. And Mount Rainier, Emmanuel, and Frank and Zena, you know, it wasn't your day, but you know, you guys are terrific students. You look good today, and I know you're going to come back and play better next time. Let's give them a hand as well. Their coaches back there, Miss Wall and Mr. Riffey is here, the assistant principal, and he is here representing Mount Rainier. We appreciate you all being here today. We appreciate you for tuning in on Science Bowl. Hope to see you next time on the next edition. I'm Dave Zarin. Until then, bye-bye now.